If you already know Tian Ying, or if you've watched my previous video, then you probably know there is one person tied to him by fate. That person is Li Zhenzhen, the blind girl he once saved, and also the one who left him with a quiet regret. Maybe just a little, but enough to stay. So here's the question. How does a blind girl, once sold to become a bride in a ghost wedding, end up becoming a top martial artist, a notorious assassin of the jianghu? And the secret of how Li Zhenzhen became an assassin without ever needing her eyes will be revealed through her beautiful yet tragic love story. Someone once said, "Love is only beautiful when it is unfinished." The story of Li Zhenzhen is one of the most heartbreaking legends in where winds meet. In an era torn apart by war, two ordinary people become each other's salvation and each other's pain. Their fate is woven from longing, loyalty, and duty, a quiet tragedy set against the chaos of the five dynasties. In the spring of 952, villagers in a remote place called Little Deer Village gathered money to arrange several marriages. Among them was a child bride bought from another province, a thin, blind girl named Li Zhenzhen. In ancient rural society, orphaned or disabled girls were often treated as property. Zhenzhen was not sold for love, but as a desperate ritual to bring good fortune to a dying groom, the son of the village chief. On the wedding night, the groom suddenly went mad and attacked the villagers. Moments later, many guests also lost their minds, grabbing knives and slashing wildly. In the chaos, the village chief accidentally killed his own son. Zhenzhen simply lowered her head. She didn't beg. She didn't scream. No one had ever taught her that resistance was an option. That was when Tien Ying, a traveling young scholar, pushed through the crowd. He covered the blind girl's eyes with his hand and whispered, "Don't look." Honestly, young Tien Ying must have been much more playful back then. Definitely not as cold as he is now. Otherwise, how could he say something like that to a blind girl? He pressed a short dagger into her palm. "You were not born to be hurt. Take this and fight for your life." It was the first time anyone had ever said such words to her, and with that, her fate was changed forever. The young man protected her while cutting down the villagers who had gone mad. After a while, he dragged a man in front of her. Zhenzhen recognized the voice. It was the man who had bought her from her parents. In those chaotic times of hunger and poverty, a blind child was nothing but a burden, so she had never been able to resist. But this time was different. A knife was in her hand, and her fate was hers to decide. Fear, confusion, rage, pain. Too many emotions crashed over her at once. Then, she clenched her teeth and struck. For the first time in her life, she fought back against her fate. That moment marked her first blood. When everything was over, Tien Ying gave her some silver and told her to live for herself. How could he tell a blind girl to go out and survive on her own? But what choice did she have? He had already saved her from a living nightmare. How could she dare to ask for more? All she wished for was one day to repay his kindness. So Zhenzhen asked him when they would meet again. Tian Ying clasped his hands behind his back, looked up at the clouds, and spoke like a grown man. "The jianghu is vast. If fate allows, we will meet again." Then he walked away. After that day, Zhenzhen's life did not become easier. But she survived, holding tightly to the dagger Tien Ying had given her. She traveled alone through the jianghu, using that blade to protect herself, to escape danger, and simply to stay alive. Over time, her skills grew, and she became the Lunar Goddess, a notorious assassin in Jianghu. Wait, what did I just say? Sorry guys, wrong script. There's no way a blind girl could become a master just by waiting for time to pass. So what kind of fated encounter did she actually experience? During her long struggle to survive while wandering through Jianghu, Zhenzhen happened to meet a man named Feng Nengqi. He was the one who eventually turned her into an assassin. But wait, don't misunderstand. This is not one of those jianghu stories about kidnapping children and training them into killers. To be precise, Feng Nengqi was the man who helped Zhenzhen see the world, even though she could not see with her eyes. Back in the year 925 AD, Elder Crane of the Moist Hill once encountered a young man by the banks of the Yellow River. That young man was Feng Nengqi. He was an outstanding swimmer. Even with heavy sandbags tied to his back, he could cut through the water as if nothing slowed him down, and he could catch fish with his bare hands. Seeing his extraordinary talent, Elder Crane guided him into the basics of Moist mechanism arts. Although Feng only learned the surface level, it was more than enough to become a true master after he returned to Qinghe. Feng Nengqi later became known as one of the 8 talents of Hedong, a group of gifted individuals gathered by the Taoists known as Sleeping Taoists to protect the land of Qinghe. When the Khitan army invaded from the north, Feng Nengqi used his knowledge of mechanisms to build traps and defensive devices. Together with the other 7, he played a crucial role in driving the enemy back. To the people of Qinghe, he was a silent hero. Despite his natural genius, Feng Nengqi chose a humble life in Qinghe. Instead of showing off his power, he spent his days teaching players Tai Chi puzzles. He was the perfect image of a true hero in a chaotic age, not someone who stands at the peak of power, but someone who uses his skills to bring warmth to those suffering in the shadows. When Feng Nengqi met Li Zhenzhen, he saw a blind girl struggling to survive in a brutal world. Moved by compassion, he took her in and helped her. Over time, he became her only friend and the most important person in her life. Knowing that Zhenzhen could not see, Feng Nengqi traveled across the jianghu in search of rare martial arts manuals. He then carefully carved every technique into Braille with his own hands, so she could train by herself. Only when she mastered martial arts did Feng Nengqi finally feel at ease, knowing she could protect herself. Those books were worth a fortune in the martial world, but to him, they were nothing more than tools to help his friend survive. Perhaps, this bond had already grown into something more than simple friendship. Over time, her skills grew. Her signature technique, Red Dust Veil, allowed her to strike using silken ribbons and flying blades, beautiful, dazzling, and deadly. Because she often appeared beneath the moonlight, silent, ethereal, and untouchable, jianghu wanderers began calling her the Lunar Goddess, a feared and mysterious swordswoman of the martial world. Many came to her with 1,000 taels of gold in hand, begging for her help. She ignored every single one of them, without a second thought. Feng Nengqi did not understand why Zhenzhen chose a path of killing, but when she became a wanted fugitive, constantly hunted and attacked, he knew he could no longer stand by. So he spent many years researching and building a safe house just for her. Feng Nengqi was fully capable of creating a place that even a blind person could operate easily, one that could truly protect her. After noticing a lake hidden beneath Crimson Cliff, Feng Nengqi realized it was the perfect place to hide. There, he tirelessly built Lunar Goddess's Retreat, a complex of wooden puppets, hidden gears, and protective mechanisms. Perhaps, without even realizing it, Feng Nengqi's feelings for Zhenzhen had grown beyond simple compassion. When he saw Li Zhenzhen's hands, rough, scarred, and hardened from using touch instead of sight since childhood, he poured all his heart into crafting a pair of handguards made from silk and precious metals. He named them lunar bracers, also known as pure moon, so her hands would always be protected. When he offered them to her, he quietly placed them beneath her statue, then left behind a letter. May you be like this silk, pure as the moon among the clouds, untouched by dust. Killing is never the right path. I will leave these hand guards here. If one day you wish to live differently, take them and wear them. I will understand. That letter seemed to mean far more than a simple gift. Perhaps it was closer to a ring, quietly placed, and never spoken of. But Zhenzhen never picked them up. For her, a gift that carried a hope she could never fulfill was simply too heavy to lift. In 959, political tensions finally reached a breaking point. The Liao dynasty sought an alliance with the southern Tang, hoping to survive the rapid expansion of later Zhou dynasty. By then, Tien Ying had become a covert agent of later Zhou dynasty. He was sent south with one mission: assassinate the Khitan envoy and sabotage the alliance. But things did not go as planned. As soon as the Khitan envoy entered Qinghe, It was ambushed by local jianghu righteous fighters. With the situation suddenly spiraling out of control, Tien Ying had no choice but to seek help from the top assassin of the region, the Lunar Goddess. Tian Ying believed he saw the Lunar Goddess for the first time at the bottom of Moon Lake. At least, that's what he thought. He explained his request. He needed someone to secretly escort the envoy out of Later Zhou, alive. Li Zhenzhen listened quietly. Though her eyes could not see, she faced him directly, as if she were looking straight into the deepest part of his heart. His heart jolted. For a brief moment, he lost focus and didn't even catch her response. Luckily, Zhenzhen's answers were always easy to understand. I've long heard of the Lunar Goddess. Would you help me save someone? All right. To save him, you may have to kill many others. All of them good people. All right. Just as the rumors say. Then what does the Lunar Goddess want in return? A pair of eyes? All right. Li Zhenzhen followed the sound of his footsteps as he walked away, listening until even the last echo faded into silence. Only after all these years did she finally learn the name of the young man who had once saved her, Tien Ying. She quietly traced the strokes of his name across her palm, again and again, a faint, gentle joy rising in her heart. The man she once asked, "When will we meet again?" had now appeared before her. Was this fate? Yes, it was. All her life, she had resented fate, fought against it, refused to bow to it. Yet this was the first time she felt like thanking it. Tien Ying did not recognize her. Perhaps he had never remembered her at all. But that didn't matter. This reunion was hers alone to know. As for the task he entrusted to her, she accepted everything without hesitation. To become his sword, to stain her hands red on his behalf, it made no difference. As long as he needed something, she could become anything. Still, she wrapped it all in the form of a transaction. If she agreed for no reason, a cautious man like him might grow suspicious. Besides, she had no real interest in this so-called exchange of eyes. As the Khitan envoy moved deeper into Qinghe territory, the Qinghe fighters launched wave after wave of attacks. Most of the envoy's guards were killed or badly wounded. Only the envoy and a handful of survivors managed to escape. The fighters chased them into the wild forests along the mountainside. In the battle that followed, the remaining guards were completely wiped out. The envoy was the only one left alive. At that critical moment, a miraculous glow once again appeared above the peak of Moonvale. From within the radiance, the Lunar Goddess descended. Several short blades flew through the air. In an instant, the Qinghe fighters fell. The envoy survived solely because of the Lunar Goddess's intervention. The next day, riding the horse Night Flash, the envoy escaped to Breeze Post in the southern Tang Kingdom. But protecting the Khitan envoy was never the full extent of Tien Ying's plan. Once the envoy safely reached southern Tang territory, Tien Ying still intended to go to Breeze Post and assassinate him personally. However, Breeze Post was a vital location, heavily guarded and tightly controlled. There was no way Tien Ying could enter and leave freely. Unable to let the matter rest, Li Zhenzhen insisted on adding one more condition to their transaction. She would go with him. Just as she expected, Tien Ying hesitated. So she lied. She said she was afraid he might never return and would run away before completing their so-called eye exchange. In the end, Tien Ying let out a long sigh and said, "We leave in 3 days. If you're late, I won't wait." 3 days. More than enough time for her to gather her belongings, cut off every lingering tie, and stand beside him through life and death, protecting him with everything she had. But fate, once again, chose to test Zhenzhen. During the escort, Li Zhenzhen killed many Qinghe patriots who attempted to assassinate the Khitan envoy. Because of this, she earned the infamous reputation of a traitor colluding with the Khitan. Her actions were misunderstood, condemned. Rumors spread wildly, claiming she had betrayed her own people. The jianghu turned against her. When news spread that she would travel south in 3 days, countless swordsmen swore revenge. Worst of all, her only friend, Feng Nengqi, was also misled by those whispers and betrayed her. a man who had once protected Jianghu from the iron hooves of the Khitan, a silent hero who safeguarded the people. How could he not be furious upon hearing that Zhenzhen had sided with the enemy? But perhaps there was also jealousy. After all, Zhenzhen had never accepted his feelings. And now she was preparing to run off south with Tian Ying instead. So, Feng Nunqi handed over the secret schematics of the Lunar Goddess's retreat, allowing the Avengers to storm her home. Zhenzhen fought them all, killing dozens. But in the end, she could not escape. That night, soaked in moonlight and blood, she finally realized her journey had reached its end. Li Zhenzhen had brushed against death many times in her life, yet she always survived. No matter how painful or how difficult it was, she clenched her teeth and kept going. Only this time did she truly understand. This was the end. If there was nothing left she could hold on to, then at least, at the moment of death, she could put on a wedding dress. She could not explain why she changed into it. Perhaps she believed that one day, someone would come to the bottom of the lake for the sake of a promise. She was not trying to marry anyone. She only wanted that man to recognize this hidden reunion. She had worn a wedding dress when she first met him, so she chose to wear one again to say goodbye. Perhaps then, he would remember that they had already met thousands of days and nights ago. Zhenzhen did not resent those who hunted her. She had killed their loved ones to repay a favor, and naturally, they had every right to seek revenge and kill her. Such is the way of the jianghu, kindness repaid with kindness, vengeance repaid with vengeance, a life for a life. Her only regret was that the day she had to repay her life came a little too early. So early that she never even had the chance to pack her things and go south with Tien Ying. Before she died, using the last of her strength, Zhenzhen left Tien Ying a final letter. In the empty valley, her voice faded away. Tien Ying waited 3 days for Li Zhenzhen. She never came. So he rode straight toward Bree's post of the southern Tang. He traveled day and night, changed horses 3 times, and never closed his eyes, all to reach the night banquet he had planned himself. During the banquet, as the envoy staggered outside in a drunken haze, Tien Ying struck. One swift movement of the blade, and everything fell silent. He moved like the wind, arriving without a trace, leaving without a shadow. Southern Tang immediately sealed its borders and launched a full pursuit. To hide his identity, Tien Ying disguised himself as a condemned prisoner and infiltrated a southern Tang prison, waiting patiently for the right moment. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. One day, while Tian Ying was chiseling stone inside the prison, an old man beside him suddenly asked, "In your entire life, have you really never cared about anyone? The kind of person who makes you wish time would slow down, just a little, whenever you're with them." Tian Ying's hands paused for a brief moment. He suddenly thought of the blindfolded girl, only for an instant. "No more." "No," he said quietly. "My task is not yet done. I have no room for such things." In 962, as Southern Tang's blockade finally loosened, Tian Ying was rescued by someone we already know and was finally able to return to Qing. 3 years had slipped away. His plan could no longer be delayed. But before anything else, there was one final task left unfinished. He flicked the blood from his blade, sheathed it in one clean motion, then carefully wiped dry the warm, freshly taken eye in his hand. He placed it gently into an icy jade casket and held it close against his chest. His thoughts drifted back to the promise they had made 3 years ago. She would help him protect a man, and he would help her find the light. He was 3 years late. He could only hope she would not blame him. At last, he arrived at Moon Lake, facing waters as clear and still as ever. He suddenly raised a hand to fix his hair. After days of hard travel, he looked far too rough. But when he dove beneath the lake, he found Li Zhenzhen, dressed in a wedding gown, long dead. He was still too late. Perhaps not just one step, but many. Tian Ying held the icy jade casket with both hands, his knuckles turning white. Only after steadying himself did he place it gently upon the stone table. Then he picked up the letter that had gathered dust for 3 long years. "May your path be smooth, and may the blood on my hands not be spilled in vain. There is one more thing I must tell you. Our bond did not begin today. I recognized you the moment you came. Now that I have changed into this garment, I wonder if you can recognize me? Thank you for everything we have been through. 3 years ago, he had waited for her for 3 days, while she had been lying at the bottom of the lake, waiting for him until now. How could such a debt ever be repaid? But a promise made was a promise he would fulfill, even if she was no longer in this world. His writing hand trembled slightly. I will give you the eye. He signed the final line, Li Zhenzhen, and sent it to the local clinic. As he left the lake bed, he could not help but look back one last time. It was a pity he could not see her regain her sight, could not see his own reflection appear in her eyes. It seemed as though this fated bond had ended here. That Tien Ying, a cold man driven only by war, schemes, and the dream of reclaiming peace, would continue walking into bloodshed alone. But after abandoning the names Tian Ying and Miao Shan, he took on a new identity, Lord Li. You haven't forgotten Zhenzhen's family name, have you? By choosing her surname, the girl who gave her life to help him, Tien Ying found a way to make her immortal. Once a man who knew only blades and political plots, he no longer fought alone. Every step he took now carried Zhenzhen's warmth and ideals. She did not disappear. She was still watching the world through his eyes, and he was living on, finishing the life she never had the chance to complete. This was how he reminded himself of the true cost of the peace he sought. The name Li became an anchor, keeping his heart from freezing under the cruelty of war. It reminded him that he had once been loved unconditionally. The Tian Ying of the past had died, together with old grudges and hatred. Lord Li was born as proof that love could surpass even death. Using the name of the one he loved, he set out to build a new world. A world where girls like Zhenzhen would never again have to sacrifice themselves so painfully. And as for Zhenzhen, if she were given a choice again, she would not choose to hold the dagger Tien Ying gave her. She would only wish for her life to be like a flower, a moonlit flower, a rare blossom she lovingly cultivated in darkness. And when the flower touched her palm, Zhenzhen's body dissolved into countless petals, scattering with the wind. She returned to the world as she had lived, quietly, beautifully, alone. Li Zhenzhen was many things. A blind child sold for luck, an assassin who wielded a sword, a terrifying legend whispered in dark forests, a friend to one man, a debt to another, a flower that bloomed without sunlight, a girl who waited 3 years at the bottom of a lake. But above all, she was simply herself, the Lunar Goddess, a life born in darkness, a heart lifted toward the moon, a soul carried away by the wind.
I was born where the light won't stay. Eyes closed before I learned to pray. Soul to fate, dressed in white, a child beneath a dying night. Blades were drawn, a whirlwind mad. Blood was all the mercy I had. Then a hand in the dark said, live, left a knife and a reason to survive. I walked alone where shadows breathe, with borrowed strength and silent grief. days, 3 wasted years, too late for words, too late for tears.